15 guys drafted. I didn't think they would be back in this spot undefeated. It shows how good Kirby Smart is. That's what David Pollack said after Georgia's national championship win over TCU. And I wanted to talk about this just for a second because what David's saying here, and actually Kirby referenced it. Um, it was kind of ridiculous, but Kirby referenced it while we were during the Sanford Stadium celebration a week or so ago, whenever it was, for the Dogs winning the national championship again, saying that, oh, David Pollack didn't think they would get back to the playoff. I think David was one of the few people that didn't think Georgia would get back to the playoff. But it does it, it underscores, excuse me, it underscores the what's the term? The How good a job that Kirby, yes, and he gets the most credit for sure, but everybody collectively pulling in the correct and same direction. How big a deal that's been. Again, 15 guys drafted. I didn't think they would be back in this spot undefeated. It shows how good Kirby Smart is. It does. And I think more acutely it shows how good a job the systems, the program, the internal belief is at Georgia right now compared to other places. I mean, it's not, I think sometimes what happens is, schools start to believe their own talking points and, this, that, and the other. And the fact of the matter is that Georgia has done something other people have never done. The discussion of connection, I do not think that was some made up, catchphrase, corporate, jargon, whatever. I think they really believe that, and you can see that on the field. I think you can see that behind the scenes as well, by the way. Um, Definitely behind the scenes because we see the guys, well, at least I do, after games, and they're walking around and they're looking at each other, and they understand what they're going through. They understand what they're doing. They all have something to say to each other. But I think, for me, that there was doubt doesn't mean that. I mean, there's always going to be doubt, and if Georgia wants to use that as motivation, that's fine. Clemson had doubt this year, and it didn't do anything for them. Whether they won the ACC, that's like winning, the region football. It's not the same. It doesn't mean anything. I can't remember who they played in the championship game. So, doubt is a part of sports. Look at the Cowboys right now. Dak Prescott. There's doubt about Patrick Mahomes. Someone's going to use doubt as a way to get where they got to go. And that's fine, whatever. But the truth of the matter is, if you don't, or the fact of the matter is, if you don't have the systems in place, if you don't have the structure that Kirby and company have got in place, if you don't do all of these things, you're not going to have success. And what David was talking about was, with the amount of guys that left, he just didn't. The 15 guys got drafted. I mean, that is an amazing. That is amazing. And a year later, you do this. You win the national championship. You win the national championship with the same quarterback, no doubt, but with a completely different team. And it was something that we talked about a lot heading into this season. Pick up double dogs today. I've got some confetti for you. If you order now, I don't think we're going to have a lot of confetti left from here on out. It's probably this week. I thought I had less than I've got, but we did an inventory this weekend. And when we run out, we run out. Get it now. People continue to order at the pace that they've been ordering the entire time, except the first day, which we had a lot of orders the first day. But everything since then has been steady, which means we're going to run out of confetti. So get it now while you can. Make sure you're picking it up today. We've had I'm recording this in the morning. We've had it's looking like 10 orders already in the morning. So get it in and get done. But if you've got the systems in place, then it gives you a chance to compete at a high level, even when you lose 15 guys. There were certainly moments. I cannot recall David's picks for some of these games, but he doesn't fall for the stupidity of it all like a lot of folks do sometimes. And I think sometimes his blunt nature, I don't know, rubs people the wrong way. I get it. I can be pretty blunt and I can rub people the wrong way. So I understand the reaction to that acutely as well. But um, nobody ever thought Georgia would lose games in terms of the betting public. I mean, they were the favorite in every single game they played. The only game that was not a double digit, where Georgia was a double digit favorite, was the Tennessee game, and that might have, excuse me, was the Ohio State game, and that game, certainly that win against Georgia as we got closer to that game. The Tennessee game, I believe, got back over 10. Certainly was at 9.5. So they were at least a score favorite in every single one of these games. You could see it after the first game. I thought they would beat Oregon. I did not think they would beat Oregon the way they did. Those are not the same thing. Um, that was a thorough beating, and it served notice that day. You remember the first 2, 3 weeks of college football? You saw where, Georgia on day one, that first weekend of college football, you knew that Tennessee could score, Georgia was dominant, Clemson still had issues. And then the next week we knew Alabama doesn't look right. Something's not right here. We also knew that Texas A&M had some issues. You can tell very quickly. Let's just say you're kicking it at home, you're ordering DoorDash. You got, by the way, 50% off right now. $20 value, you get $0 in delivery fees when you download the DoorDash app and enter the code DAWG, DAWG. We got a lot of students that watch this. Y'all, I know you ordered, or you've got put DAWG in for your DoorDash code, okay? 50% off, $20 value, $0 in delivery fees when you download the DoorDash app in the App Store and enter the code DAWG, DAWG. The code is DAWG, DAWG for 50% off, $20 value, and $0 in delivery fees from DoorDash. Subject to change. Terms apply. There's a lot of places in Athens that have really awesome DoorDash delivery, by the way. And so when you're kicking it watching basketball this week, or when you were in the fall watching those first 2 weeks of football, you didn't want to grill out, and you're hitting up DoorDash. You're watching these games going, something's not, like Ohio State looked good, Michigan looked good, but after that, like you could tell in the first couple of weeks that there were problems at Alabama. They were struggling to beat Texas, and everybody was like, "Well, is Texas good? Is Texas good?" No, it didn't. It turned out that they weren't. But week one in the top 25, Georgia beat Oregon 49-3. Alabama won 55-0. That was a good look. Ohio State beat Notre Dame. Texas A&M was beat Sam Houston State, but they did not look good. You got to watch the games. Florida's upset of Utah, that surprised me, and then Michigan really handled Colorado State. But then in week two, we got more data. Alabama barely survives Texas. Michigan continues to look good. Clemson, it just didn't look good against Furman. I mean, and then of course Appalachian State beat number 6 Texas A&M, punching a hole into their whole saga. Marshall beats Notre Dame. BYU beats Baylor. I mean, there were a lot of, you could tell. And then, frankly, by week three, there were two teams that were playing at a different level than everybody else. Georgia beating South Carolina on the road, 48-7. And then Ohio State scoring 77 points against Toledo. That's a lot of points. Clemson did not look good against against Louisiana Monroe. They were winning 13-6 at the half. Oklahoma, it wasn't great. It looked like perhaps was Kentucky good. Arkansas had to rally against Missouri State. Michigan State gets beat by Washington. Texas A&M beats Miami. It was becoming clear that there were just a few teams in college football that were pretty good. Clemson survives Wake Forest, and the teams tell you all you need to know. You have to watch, though. And when we prognosticate, when we say what we think going into seasons, it's just a marker. Now, teams use it as motivation, but that can't be your exclusive motivation. That can be your "I told you so" moment or whatever. That's fine, whatever. I mean, I think that's kind of whatever. I mean, it's got to be more than that. It's got to be more than proving the doubters wrong, because there's reason for doubt. There's an explanation for doubt. Okay, I've got doubts. I also think now, when I say I've got doubts, Georgia's got to replace a starting quarterback that's won them 2 national championships. Alabama's got to replace a Heisman Trophy winning Heisman Trophy winning quarterback who was there for 2 years for them, got them to the national championship game. Ohio State has got to replace, one of the best two quarterbacks they've had in the last decade, and absorb the shock of that loss to Georgia. Clemson has a lot of problems. Michigan Michigan doesn't have as many problems as Clemson, but they got problems. Georgia totally can win the national championship in 2023. There was I we our caveat with Georgia was, or at least mine was, I think Georgia can win the national championship in 2022. I just think that it's going to be Ohio State and Alabama that play for it. Well, by week 2 or 3, we weren't saying the same sort of stuff. And Georgia showed you what they were. And David Pollack, when you look back on it, yeah, it is surprising that anyone in college football will go undefeated in a 15-game season. It's happened 3 times in history. It's happened only twice in SEC history. So it's not a common thing. But looking back on it now, it's not a surprise. It's not. It should have happened. And it's a huge accomplishment that it did.